Fuck, sorry. Good
That's
morning.
okay.
Buenos dias. Buenos dias. For the folks in the U.S., happy Mother's Day.
Mhm.
Okay, today we are going to be talking about living in what is a lot of people's most favorite cities in Mexico, San Miguel de Allende, with
Mhm.
Michelle. Um, I want to pronounce your last name correctly.
It's Wedderburn hyphen Waters.
Okay, Michelle Wedderburn Waters of Afro Expats. You
Mhm.
have been living in San Miguel since when?
Since June 2018, so I'm actually coming up on my 3-year anniversary. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
wow.
3 years.
And I am going to, hello, everybody. If you're here joining us, say hello in the chat. I see La Jamaica's here. Miss Vice is here. So you moved to, well, let's back up because I had an opportunity
Hmm.
to watch your family's episode of House Hunters International, which
Right.
aired at the end of April, I believe.
Yes, it did.
And I love the title of it, Meet Me in San Miguel de Allende. Um, y'all have the cutest story.
Oh.
High school sweethearts who connected after how many years?
My husband knows the exact number because he's a numbers guy, but it was over 30
Oh,
years.
wow. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
And y'all reconnected, fell in love, got married, but were
Mhm.
living in two separate places.
Exactly. So we dated in high school, so that's like that was in the 80s, mid 80s. And then, we separated at that time, and he went off and did his thing. I went off and did mine. And over the years, every now and then he would see my mom or my brothers in Connecticut. And I moved from Connecticut in 2000. And and then I had someone who started working for me. I always tell the story because that's sort of what prompted a little bit of it was that he kept in touch with my family over the years. They would always say, "Hey, I saw Daryl. He asked about you," and I'm like, "Oh, how's he doing?" Blah blah blah. But we never spoke. We only saw each other once in 1994, and that was in downtown Hartford, Connecticut. And we spoke for like less than 10 minutes, and that was it. And then I had a guy who started working for me in 2015, and he had the same name. So I just thought about him, and I was like, oh, I wonder what he's up to. Blah, blah, blah. And so I looked him up, and I went to Connecticut for that Christmas. And I was like, when I get back home, 2016, January, I'm going to look him up again online. And all I found was an address. So I just sent him a business card because I didn't really know anything about his personal situation. I didn't want him to get in trouble or have any issues. And yeah, 5 days later, he calls me, and yeah, the rest is kind of history right now.
And that's just, it's so adorable and blows my mind. But what's really interesting is that y'all got together, you got married, but y'all were living separately,
Yes.
and you moved to Mexico.
Yeah.
So let's dig into that a little bit. Like,
Okay.
how did you arrive at that point where it was like, you know what, I want to live in Mexico?
Well, stepping back one step, when I was pregnant, I kind of always felt like I didn't want to raise my son. Daryl's not his biological dad, but this just goes back like, 9 or 10 years. And I always wanted to go somewhere else. And I actually am Canadian. So I have Canadian citizenship, and I was thinking about Canada. But moving from where I was living in Florida to Canada is just kind of like, backwards. Most people leave the cold. And I was like, I don't really like the cold, but I have a lot of family there. So I thought about it for a few years. So when he and I reconnected, he was kind of like, "You want to move to Connecticut?" Again, the cold thing. And I was like, "No, I said, maybe we can slow down in Florida." I was doing my thing. I had a business, I had real estate. He had his job. He had real estate, and he had like retired previous to the newer job. He had retired from working for the state of Connecticut. So I was kind of like, we're with all this extra stuff, like double households for a while. So he was commuting back and forth to Florida in the beginning. And like a year and a half in, I started telling him, like, well, maybe if we go somewhere else, we can, consolidate and downsize and, go somewhere where it's not as expensive to live. And then we can really slow down and we can enjoy, these years a little bit more than waiting for our 60s. So that's sort of how it started. And he was coming down to Florida once or twice a month. Every now and then I would go to Connecticut. And then finally, when we started looking at options for places to live, Mexico really wasn't on the list. It was kind of, like he wasn't so crazy about Mexico, even though he hadn't visited. But, it's just that same like vibe that I think people have initially about Mexico. It's fearful. And I said, no, it's nice. I've been there a lot, blah, blah, blah. And we started looking into it. I started researching a lot. And then finally, he was interested. I started sending him statistics and, places to retire. It kept coming up in the first one, two, or three place marks. And then I started talking to him about San Miguel and Merida, Mexico City, because I love Mexico City.
Me
And
too. But
yeah,
that's like the worst kept secret around.
she's like, shh, don't tell anyone. So long story short, it ended up being that we were able to take a research trip. And on day two, he was like, I really like it here. It's nice. And we started looking into it and planning. Literally, we saw this house and he was kind of like on board because it had like some of the things that he would have wanted in Florida. So that was sort of like the thing. I felt like we started the ball rolling and things actually started to fall into place, right? We didn't expect to find a space, but we found something that intrigued us and then we just started planning it. And I told the property owner, look, this is probably going to take us 6 or 7 or 8 months. And she was like, okay, if it's available, blah, blah. And that's sort of how it started to matriculate into being Mexico as opposed to Florida, because he still had a lot of things to do. So even after I got here, he's still living in Connecticut. So it took a while to wrap it all up.
It sounds like really, I mean, like you had this feeling about raising your son, maybe not in the US, but
Mhm.
were there any other countries in the running besides Mexico?
hmm So we first started with Italy because we like it there. I love Italy as a country, been there many times. And he and I actually eloped to Italy in 2016. We sort of told everyone we got married when we got back. And then, so it was sentimental to us. But when I started looking at the, economics of it, it didn't make sense. It just didn't make a lot of sense. So we decided to look at other options. We looked at Panama and Costa Rica. I would say those were our first two things. And I don't know why Costa Rica. I feel like it's the same kind of, the knowledge base. For whatever reason, back maybe in the late 90s, early or mid 2000s, a lot of people were moving to Costa Rica. And I think it was less expensive at that time.
It was.
Yeah. So we were talking a lot about Costa Rica, and then I said, I don't even know anyone in Costa Rica. I've never even been there. Why Costa Rica? And then I started thinking about Panama, and I was open to going to a place I was not familiar with, but Mexico just kept, like I said, it just kept popping up. You do like a search, and it was like Mexico's on the top 3 or 5. And I said, I know Mexico. I've been to Mexico. I like Mexico. I've never had a negative experience. And I said, let's at least consider it. So it took a little bit of giving him, information that was not negative. You know what I mean? Because if you're not looking, all you can remember is the negativity that you see on TV. And that was sort of the initial start. But when he got here, he loved it, and he still loves it. I mean, it's a change for him for sure, but it's been good to us.
Okay. Good morning to the people who have just joined us, and happy Mother's Day. I guess it's very appropriate that I'm talking to Michelle today because when you moved to Mexico in 2018, how old was your son?
He was 6.
6. So
Hmm.
you moved to another country
Hmm.
without your husband, because your husband stayed behind in the United States to handle some things with a
Right.
6-year-old.
Yes.
Uh,
By myself.
by
And all
yourself.
the stuff, I was like, let's do it.
Now, it's interesting that you selected San Miguel de Allende because it's usually considered sort of like a retirement
Hmm.
location, but
Yeah.
you had a 6-year-old.
Right. So I'll give you that story. Um, I visited San Miguel in 2005, and it was hardcore retirement, right? I was much younger, and I was just like, nah, I could go to Mexico City, but not here and not some other places. I spent a lot of time in Huatulco, which is beautiful. I absolutely love, the scenery. It's just a beautiful place. But it was just slow. I was like, where's the Starbucks? Not to be superficial, but I was kind of still more in that city vibe. I really needed more stuff around. Like I wanted to see museums and blah blah blah. And now at this time in my life, having a child, um, I don't know. San Miguel came up, and I looked on YouTube, and there weren't a lot of our types of channels available, but I kept finding other people's experiences here in San Miguel with children. And that was the appeal because it actually changed a lot since I visited. There weren't the dirt roads and all that. So the more I started digging, and I looked at Lake Chapala, Ajijic, Mexico City, Guadalajara, Merida, and all these other places, I just couldn't find what felt like a family vibe. And San Miguel, for some reason, there were just, and some of the videos were a little bit dated, but they just kind of gave me that comfortability to at least investigate it. And when I got here, to my surprise, there are tons of families. I mean, a lot. There are lots of kids, lots of international families, or a lot of families that where one parent is American, or from the U.S. or Canada, and the other parent is Mexicano or whatever. So I started to think about raising him, and that was the other thing, to jump forward a little bit with, or back rather, with Costa Rica. It felt too retired. And I was just like, I don't, I mean, we're sort of like that. You know how they have like the tween? I felt like we were like that as far as we're not retired, or we're not as, that age bracket of being 60 and up, and we have the young child, but we're older parents. So for me, it was important that he didn't feel like he didn't have like a mix as well. So I really made a lot of decisions based on the family dynamic so everyone could kind of be happy.
Okay. Um, it KB 316 says, you don't really hear too much about San Miguel de Allende.
Yeah.
Um, I don't. I really haven't heard about it being sort of a family space.
Hmm.
Typically, when I hear about it, it's from white Americans and Canadians who are
Hmm.
looking to retire.
Hmm.
So it's refreshing to hear. I did get a chance to visit finally, and I can definitely see the appeal. It's a
Hmm.
beautiful place.
Hmm.
Well, I stayed just in Centro, so I didn't get the
Okay.
whole effect, but I can definitely see the appeal.
Hmm.
Um, what did your son think of the idea of moving out of the United States?
Yeah. Well, at 6, he really had a lot of other experiences in travel. I mean, his first, every year for his birthday, we would do something. We would go somewhere different. I mean, we traveled within the US, but, the first year he actually came to Mexico when he was 1. And we came with my mom. At 2, we went to Puerto Rico. 3, we went somewhere else, and he's even been to Europe. So I think for him, it was more about, leaving his school friends. Like, he was just in kindergarten. So I was, from a mom's perspective, I was like, oh, he'll be fine. I tried to prep him a little in regard to the language, but it just wasn't working out. I had a teacher at his school in Florida that we started doing a little tutoring. And then I remember just thinking, I'm not going to make a big emphasis on anything because he's just in kindergarten. He's going into first grade. Let him just be, let him enjoy the experience. And so overall, I think he was excited, but he had actually never been to San Miguel until we got here. And I was telling him, he's just like, why are we leaving? We're packing up the house when the movers came to take everything out. Like our last night, we slept in his room on the floor with the dog. And, we're just like, tomorrow's the day. But he's always about like that adventure. So I think for him, it wasn't so much attachment. He wasn't so attached. And I think he was thinking about it in way of a vacation. And then when we got here, he had so much fun. It was almost like, nothing really changed. I think the toughest thing or part for him is this: his biological dad lives in Florida. So I think that was really the thing, that it was like, oh, okay, I can't see him all the time. But in general, he's really excited to be here. When we go to the US, he enjoys that, but and then he cries a little bit when we're leaving, but he's always happy to come back. So he's made a lot of friends, and I think that made that transition easier for him. School was a little tough, but overall the living was a good transition.
And has he picked up any Spanish?
Oh
Because
yeah,
y'all been there on what, going on 3 years?
he's fully fluent.
Oh,
Complete,
wow.
completely fluent in Spanish and reading and writing Spanish. So he's better than I am, like way
That's
better.
awesome.
Yeah.
What did you do for school for him when y'all moved?
Okay, so I actually did a research trip after our research trip. I came back, I came back again because I just, I was trying so hard to find the right thing. So my advice to anyone doing it is give yourself a break, because, I think we come with this American or US kind of mentality where we want everything lined up and everything perfect. And I think when you make this kind of move, you really have to give yourself a break, your family a break, yourself a break, because everything's not going to turn out exactly the way you think it is, right? So you just got to be patient. So I took a trip um, after a research trip, I think 2 or 3 months later, just to look at schools because I was really interested and I wanted to meet the staff and see the school and see what it was about. And I wanted it to be bilingual because I still wanted him to learn English grammar and also Spanish grammar. And they have several schools in San Miguel that are bilingual. There's Academia International, there's Newland, there's Atibal, which is a Montessori school, there's Arbol de Vida, which is a Waldorf school. So there are tons of choices that are private schools and very affordable. So we started with Academia, and I picked them because I really liked the staff and I liked the school. It reminded me of when I was, you know, going to kindergarten and grade school or whatever. It was just, it wasn't perfect. It was just nice and it was a nice setup and everyone was really cool. But I think what I had such an emphasis on was them kind of like taking the time in a separate setting to teach him Spanish. But it was more like of a full immersion. And I think my initial expectations were a little too high in terms of what's the outcome, right? What's going to happen. And it felt like a lot of pressure when I started evaluating his situation. And I said, I just want this to be a nice, memorable experience. And if he's not flourishing there, let's try something else. So in the first school year, we literally tried 3 schools. I was not really feeling any of them. And then on the third school, it was just like a more of a project play situation. And I hired a tutor and I was like, just learn Spanish. Because once you learn Spanish, then you can learn whatever in school. So I didn't want him to have like a lot of stress and it felt a little bit stressful. And I realized that he's just 6 and going on 7. So it's not a big deal. You know, really and truly, it's not a big deal. It's not going to get you that big job later on if you didn't go to the right school at, 6 years old.
At 6.
Yeah, I was just like, whatever. So we just started being really flexible about everything in this regard.
So the initial school, even though it was a bilingual school, was the language of instruction English or Spanish?
Well, they have both. So they have
Okay.
half the day in English and the other half in Spanish. And, that wasn't really the reason. There were like some other things. I
Yeah.
wasn't feeling it the way I thought I would. And then I kind of jumped from there to the next one. So all 3 schools are bilingual and that's their setup. So half of the day is in English and the other half is in Spanish. And they have one teacher dedicated to teaching in English and the other teacher dedicated to teaching in Spanish. So the most recent school he was in is Atabal Montessori. I really like them. They are not fancy, but they are very much about the kids emotions and having them fit in. And, they really, honestly, I've never encountered anywhere that's bent over backwards like they do. They just are all about, the emotional development. The academics are, to me, they're like middle of the road, but I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's a great start if you are in transition to a new country. I really felt like they did a way better job of trying to integrate him into things. If he wasn't, feeling something, they were like, okay, well, what else do you like, or what else do you want to do? The director is amazing. I love them. They're really good to us.
So how has that changed with the pandemic situation?
All the schools are closed in Mexico. Everyone is shut down. No colleges are open, universities, no schools. So we started last year with obviously the online. At the end of the school year was a disaster. Complete, utter disaster. Okay, because they're not a technology school. And so it was just a disaster to say the least. And
Yeah.
I know everyone experienced this in general. They had 1 hour a day where they were doing half-hour Zoom for English and a half-hour for Spanish, and the rest was on me or the parent. And yeah, I
Wow.
mean, initially it was fine because, I like to be involved, and my mom was here. She got stuck here. So we were like making sock puppets with him to do presentations. And we were like all about like trying to teach and all these things. But then when the new school year started, I said, you know what, I'm just going to evaluate it because my concern was, is he actually learning? And I'm paying for it, you know? So it's like, I'm not going to keep paying for a whole school year if he just, all kids can't learn this way. And
No,
it's,
and that's something that has become very apparent
mhm,
with the necessity to go online. Like, this doesn't work for everybody, and
right,
that's okay.
right,
We have to be okay with that. Now,
yeah.
you mentioned paying for school.
Hmm.
Ballpark, if somebody is moving with a child to San Miguel de Allende and they're looking at private schools, bilingual schools, what can they expect to pay?
Okay, so it's semi of a wide range, but not so much so with the ones that I went to. I would say Academia and Newland, which is also NWL. NWL has several campuses in Mexico. I think their first one started in Monterrey, and they have one in Querétaro, they have one here, and I don't know, maybe one in Mexico City. And they are a technology school, so they were ready for this. They were equipped for this, I should say. Everything's online. The kids have to have iPads, blah blah blah. So there's the inscription fee, which so I'm going to tell you about Newland because that's the number that I remember the most. I think everything to get him started was about 27,000 pesos. 27,000 pesos comes out to about 1,500 US dollars to get him started, including uniforms, materials, and then I think separately we had to buy an iPad. That's how they work. And you buy into the materials for the whole year. You pay an inscription fee annually, and then after that you pay a tuition every month. And the tuition was close to 6,000 pesos, so it was about 300 US dollars a month, which is compared to another private school in the US is really not a lot. But if you have multiple kids, it can add up, obviously, right? I
Yeah.
only have one, and I gave it a try, and I didn't love it. So then when we switched over to Atibal, I don't remember their inscription fees. Materials, I think, cost about 75 to 100 US dollars for the whole year, and that includes an online platform with lots of materials for reading and whatever. And it also includes hard copy books, which they change every bimester. You get a new book. So in a school year, you get five new books for English and for Spanish. And they also give you like a lot of art supplies and whatever. They give you like a bag of art supplies every trimester, bimester. And then the monthly tuition for that school is 3,650 pesos. So that comes out to less than $200 a month. So I would say about 175 or 160 or something like that. And it's pretty decent. They are open when they were open 8 until 2. And you drop them off old fashioned. You stand in front of the door. You don't roll up in your car. Well, you roll up in your car at Newland, but at Tabal, you drop them off at the door, and then when you go to pick them up, they just yell their names on the megaphone, and they come running to the front. And it's all secure. It's enclosed. They have good security. At Newland, like I said, the technology school or technology based school, they were super high end. Like it was a brand new campus. Unfortunately for them, COVID hit. But yeah, they had security guards and a whole system. I really like the campus. It's beautiful,
I,
but
I,
he wasn't flourishing there.
I think what your experience with those different schools show, and then with Roxana Bangura, who I spoke to a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
there's a whole range of educational opportunities
Yeah.
here, from, the public schools all the way up to really expensive, even by American standards,
Mhm.
international schools. So
Right.
there are definitely options for parents who are coming with kids. Now,
Mhm.
what did the rest of the family, because I know your husband has some adult children,
Mhm.
your parents, his parents, brothers and sisters, what did they think of this idea of y'all moving to Mexico?
Well, my family knows that I'm just a Rolling Stone. I've always been a Rolling Stone. And so I think for them, initially, there was more concern, which everyone has, about safety, but it's hard for me to digest those things when I'm like, you've never visited, so I can't really take your advice because you've never been there, or you've only visited for like, a beach vacation, or you got off on a cruise ship at the tourist shops and you got back on the cruise ship. So my experiences are different. I've traveled a lot over the years. I've been to over 30 something countries. And so for me, it's like, yes, there's always that, air of caution about things, but I knew that it wasn't a crazy decision like, oh my gosh. So overall, I think we had a lot of mixed opinions. For example, I didn't really share it with anyone in general. I shared it with like my close friends and my family, like my mom and my dad and my brothers, but I didn't really say too much because first of all, I was busy packing because I was like, we're going to Mexico. I don't really want to hear what others have to say. And my dad, I think, had like more of a concern about like Daryl, for example. He's a family man, right? He is all about his family, which is super commendable. However, I was like, you work for a long time. I think you can, give yourself a break now. And, they're grown up or they're getting to be more grown up. Like his youngest is almost 19.
Okay.
So, it's kind of like, all right. And I said, not only that, my viewpoints where we can, um, you know, offer them a place to come and hang out, and have a new experience. So for me, it was sort of like, let's change the trajectory of the future so that they can kind of have other things. I said, if your kids, maybe the younger girls, if they want to go to college for a semester in Mexico or a year and learn a language or whatever, the grandkids came 2 summers ago and they stayed for the whole month and they loved it. I mean, they started learning Spanish. I took them with Micah to piano lessons. They took piano lessons. So, it was sort of like one of those opportunities that we did not have as children. My parents weren't traveling like this. And, for me, I think we're passing down other things to this group. So overall, I think the opinions were, very mixed bag. It was kind of like, what, you're going to Mexico? Why? And then others were like, congratulations. And then others were like, be safe, don't get kidnapped. Don't be worried about getting kidnapped.
Oh, I
And
hate that one.
I'm
To be
like,
safe,
not,
because I
yeah,
wasn't going to be. I
yeah,
needed you to remind me to be safe.
yeah.
Okay.
And I'm like, you be safe with all those gunshots flying all over the place. I'm like, that was my main reason for wanting to leave. One of the main reasons. I was just like, I don't want to have anxiety dropping my kid at school every day because I did. I was like, I don't want to have anxiety going to the movie theater, going to church. I mean, it's endless. And it actually happened while we were packing because we were in Florida and that Parkland thing happened. And I marched in that march and I was just like, I am so out of here. Just want out. Yeah.
And and that's KB 316 asked, like, you know, we can't ignore the fact that living as a Black person in the United States comes with many perils, and
Right.
you have a Black son.
Hmm.
Um, what's been your experience being in San Miguel de Allende as a Black woman? Have there
Hmm.
been any issues?
None, zero. And that's a very good question. So, like I said, all of my previous experiences in Mexico were positive. I mean, I've been to Mexico a lot, like probably 20 times prior over the years. I stayed for long periods of time in different places. So my experiences have been really positive. Again, when I was younger, a lot of that came with some fears because I had the same viewpoints that we have, right? And I'm not saying they're wrong because that's what we've been fed. But what I realized in my movements around Mexico, and I can tell you, I think the biggest eye-opening moment for me was when I went to Mexico City because I always envisioned it as kind of smaller, I think. I don't know why. I just did. Small, full of crime, whatever. And I remember this was way back. I went there to buy some supplies and materials for something. And, we pull in and it's like New York. And I love New York City. And I was just like, what? Like, and so it was one of those moments where I was just like, oh my God, I've been so off about my thinking. So, in saying that, no, I have never had any issues as a Black woman. Men don't really like harass you here, women in general. I'm not saying never, but I really haven't had like, just the harassment thing that you get sometimes in the US, people hissing at you and whatever. It has happened, but it's probably been 2 times. Maybe I'm getting older. I don't know. But, no one bothers me. And they love us. They love, love, love us. They love that we're here. They actually can't even believe we live here. So that's a whole
That
other
one right
thing.
there. I
Yeah, it's
think,
like, oh, you live
and it's kind of like, wow, you chose to come to my country, which is a very different reaction than the way we treat immigrants in the United States, despite the fact that, it's supposed to be a melting pot and all of that.
Right.
You said that they like it. I think that's also something interesting, because as Black Americans, or a Black person living in the United States, even if you're from there and lived there your whole life, do you ever really feel welcome? And then you flip that and you come to Mexico and people are enthusiastic that you're here. They welcome you. It's very hard for me to put into words. So I guess y'all got to come to Mexico to feel it. But, after living in the United States, and even if it is my country, but not really, and then to come to someone else's country and really be welcomed, that it's just mind blowing. It's mind blowing.
It really is. I mean, I feel like on top of, it's endless. I sometimes don't really even get into things with people, even if I'm just talking to friends or family on the phone, because I feel like it's a lot, to say, oh, this is great, and that's great, and this is great, because it feels almost like you're just saying it, but it's a reality. Since I've been here, people have been so kind, helpful. Forget about it. They're so helpful, especially in San Miguel, because it's a smaller city and you kind of start seeing the same faces after a while. And that's not for everyone. I had to kind of get used to that. Little kids coming and knocking on my door to play with my son. I was just like, where's your mother? I was freaking out. The first couple of months, I was so like hover mom, because I was used to living in Florida, South Florida. And, I never let him outside to play. And here he can play outside. We live in a development. It's safe. There's security. We know everyone that works here. And the people are just helpful. We have like a mom chat group. If we're looking for our child, we just send a message and they're like, yeah, I'm sending Micah home or whatever. It's been really a great experience. There are some things that are struggles for us, mostly language barrier things, or just cultural things, meaning you have to come with a relaxed, open mind, right? You can't come with this, oh, it has to be fast and quick, and I'm sure it's a little faster and quicker in Mexico City, but
still,
you understand, but overall it's positive.
Prime example, we went to IKEA yesterday, which was supposed to open back in the fall of 2020, but of course the pandemic delayed that. And then the physical store was supposed to open January. I don't think it did. Sometime in the last couple of months it did. And so we went. You have to have an appointment. We get there. We're in this long line. We're trying to figure out, why do we have an appointment? Why are there several hundred people here? Why aren't we going in? There was no electricity at the IKEA. So it's like, and none of the employees are freaking out about oh no, the store has no electricity, we won't. They're like, here's a bottle of water, just relax. And you learn to just be like, okay, maybe this will go the way I want, maybe it won't.
Yeah, it's true. When did you come to Mexico? What year did you move?
I moved in July of 2017. And prior to that, I had primarily visited border towns and, like Cancun, Cozumel. And prior to I basically had said before that, I was like, I've seen Mexico. I've done it. I was like, unless I get a chance to go to like Mexico City, like the touristy part of Mexico, I was done with. And then I came to Mexico City and was like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Right, exactly. And there are places, I think, for everyone in Mexico. I love San Miguel, but I am so interested in seeing a lot more of Mexico. I've seen a lot that were not so touristy, and touristy, but I'm like, every time I see something online, I'm just blown away. Photographs, waterfalls, and just like caves and caverns and hot springs. I'm like, oh my God, that just speaks to me. I need to go see this. I don't even want to leave Mexico to visit my family. I'm like, I got other places to go spend this money on. I'm not trying to go to the US
I
right
always
now.
tell people there is something in Mexico for everyone. If you want the
Hmm.
city, if you want mountains, you want the desert, you want the beach, you want hiking,
Yeah,
whatever it is, Mexico has a lot to offer. Um,
it does.
Lauren's comment, the, these chats are informative and encouraging. People living the expat life seem to be more at peace with themselves and aspects of
Mhm.
life in general. Reduce stress level. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah,
Mhm.
you're right, Lauren. I
Yeah.
think, and you can tell me your opinion on this, Michelle. I think really it's an element of American culture that you're supposed to be, like out doing. And I think stress is part of that American culture. And, when you leave that behind. Or if you
Mhm.
don't leave it behind, that's really going to impact your experience in your new country.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you come here, if you haven't been here and do you plan on moving or traveling, whatever your goals are, you just have to come with an open mind, and you do need to just like chill, like lay back, take it for what it is, and not make a lot of comparisons, because there are different cultures, two different countries. There are a lot of things here where the infrastructure is just not there, or it's not great. Banking. I mean, we opened an account, and it was like so archaic, but I just kept signing those 50 million pages. I'm like, okay. So, and not every bank, but this one in particular. So my point of saying that is just, be patient. For example, getting back to the helpful attitudes and how calm people are. And I was asking you, when did you come? So you remember when they had that gas shortage because they switched, the presidencies changed, the
Mm-hmm.
administration, and he shut down the black market for gasoline, and getting gas in San Miguel for probably about a month was like crazy. It was like trying to get gas in Florida when there was a
A
hurricane.
hurricane.
Yeah, and I remember in Florida, people were nuts, like crazy, beeping and just crazy, grabbing waters off the shelves and food shortage and all that. Well, I took a trip to Florida, and I got picked up by my shuttle driver in Mexico City. So the drive from Mexico City to San Miguel is like almost 4 hours. And I was like texting some of my neighbors, and I said, "Hey, how's the gas situation?" So we were like pooling together, sharing car rides to bring our children to school. And then someone would like text, "Hey, this gas station has whatever, there's no long line, hurry up and go over there." So as I'm driving back, I'm realizing Mexico City seems to be, kind of okay or better, and even the outskirts. So I asked the shuttle driver, "Hey, can we stop somewhere and get, a big gas can, fill up here, and I'll bring it to San Miguel, right, for the rest of our journey." So he gets on his phone, and he's like calling all his connects. And this is through the shuttle company, Bahia Go. And we made a stop just outside San Miguel. He waited in this gas line for 4 hours, 4 hours to get me one can of gasoline. And they were all so chill. They were like talking. They were pushing their cars forward so they'd have to turn their cars on. There was a long line. They were handing us sodas and like, "Hey, do you want a sandwich?" And no one was pissed. And I was just sitting in the car like, wow, this was US, I
Wouldn't
think.
be Florida.
Right. They would have been like, shoving and honking horns or whatever. So it just made me realize, like, first of all, how helpful, everyone is. And then when he got here, I didn't have like, the siphon to put it in my car. And I have like a Vocho, and which is a Volkswagen Beetle for those who don't know. and he got like a little thing, and he like rigged, they rig everything up. He rigged it up, and he got the gasoline in there for me. He just went out of his way. Obviously, he was expecting a tip, and I tipped him, but it was just so he didn't have to do that, and I think that that's one of the things that I really enjoy about living here is people are very kind and helpful generally. There's always a bad seed, but I feel like for the most part, I've only encountered goodness for the most part.
Yeah, people look for ways to help you out.
Yes.
That is kind of the default reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Vice had a question.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that San Miguel de Allende is single friendly? Let's say for a woman in her 40s.
If you're looking to date, probably not the best dating spot, but it's definitely singles friendly. There are a lot of people here that, are either couples or not, meaning retirees. I've met a lot of women that are single, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and up. But, like for example, a few years ago, not even a year and a half ago, I met a young lady here, and she was, a black lady, and she was 35 or so. And she loved it here, but she was just like, I don't know if I'm going to meet the love of my life. And I was like, yeah, that either. And there are a few other Black women that are younger that have moved here recently. And, it depends on what you're looking for. But if you asked me, is this a place to meet someone and date and go out on dates? I think it's definitely limited. I can't say impossible. I mean, you might meet a local person that's available, but I think for the most part, if you're looking for someone in their 40s, Black male, yeah, struggle, struggle for sure. But I'll say this: if you're open, Querétaro, which is right next door, that's a great city. That's kind of like a mini version of Mexico City, and I think that there's a lot more happening in that age bracket. I've met a few other ladies that are already living there, and one that's going to be moving there. She's actually my coach. She's moving there in June, and she loves San Miguel, but that was her thing. She was like, I want to be able to date, and I said, okay, well then stay in, go to Querétaro. That's probably your better choice.
And there's Alex Blog. She said that was me, the 35-year-old single Black woman.
Oh, that's right. Hi, Alex. Hi. He's a great singer, by the way.
Somebody wanted to know, is your son enrolled in soccer?
No, he's not. He's actually in Taekwondo, robotics class, and I'm going to sign him up for piano. And then he has an English teacher and a Spanish teacher because we changed that up a little bit this year because the school online thing wasn't working for us. But they do have soccer camps. And I think they even have like a running thing. They have groups, a lot of things for children. They have art classes for kids. And then you can get, individual, like his robotics class. He loves it. It's with a certified Lego robotics teacher, and she comes to my house to teach him. And it's really cool because it entails engineering, physics, math. It's really a cool setup. He likes that a lot.
Okay. Our paths crossed in your Facebook group that you created, Black Owned Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you feel the need to create that Facebook group?
For several reasons. When I first moved here, it was just kind of trying to find stuff for us, whether it was hair products or someone to just do my hair. Like I don't want to go to the US for this. I mean, and I don't always want to do it myself. So, I kind of was just like, is there anyone? There's got to be someone out there that knows how to braid at the very least. And I remember speaking to a good friend that lives here, and she's from Philly. She's lived here for over 20 years, and when you first arrive, I think, you're like shedding that I can find everything on Google attitude, because you just can't here. I mean, you can find more in a Facebook group than you can on
Than on
Google.
Google.
Right.
No,
And
very true.
yeah, and what's on Google is going to be like, a picture of a wall with an address and no more information, no phone number. So what I was realizing was I needed to kind of try to find stuff that were essential for me, or use other things that were substitutes. But my initial response was trying to find exactly what I needed. So a few years passed, and then earlier this year, I just had like this epiphany in the middle of the night. I was on one Facebook group, and this girl was saying that she just got her shea butter. Okay, it's just basic, right? But she's like, I just got my shea butter. And I was like, she's like, here's the link, and the shipping was great, and blah, blah, blah. So I clicked on the link, and I was like, okay, that's good to know, and I like to store information, or I like to have info for people when they visit or they come or whatever. So within 30 minutes, someone on another page saying, like another Black Mexpat group, and I don't remember which one because there are several now, and she was looking for the same product. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. And so I copied her info, and I went back to look for it, and I sent it. I said, oh, I just saw this. I don't know anything about it, but check it out. And in that moment, I was just like, you know what? We just need a space where we can all share information, share. This isn't to take away from, the locals or anything, but I feel like, there are a lot of us moving here that want to own or do. And it's like, rather than saying, oh, don't do that, or you're not supposed to, or whatever, teach me how, right? Give me the information that makes it legal. Like when you had Teresa, and I found
Hmm.
her a while ago. I was like, this is fantastic. Like, tell people how they can own a business, tell them how to set it up right. Tell them how to bring whatever. It's not really that you're coming here to take away jobs and work and whatever. It's like we're here to information share. And that's what that platform is about. It's like, I'm not mad if you want to post 1 million times, your show, or someone wants to share their blog or their live or whatever. I'm a realtor, or I am selling these products. Of course, I encourage everyone to do it the right way, but I'm not responsible for that level. I'm just responsible for providing the space for you to do it. And any ideas that people have, I'm all about encouraging that. So that was really what prompted it. And it felt like on some of the pages, you had to ask permission. And on mine, I just ask people to be respectful. And that's it. It's like, you have something that you want to put out there, go ahead. And I do a lot of research because I want people to know there's a lot out there that we just don't know about because we don't have a space to find it. Yeah.
I think that's really true because talking to Teresa and Roxanne here in Mexico City after we joined the group, we were like, wow, did you know there were this many Black-owned businesses
Yeah.
in Mexico? And I wonder if it was my post about the shea butter that you saw. Because
Maybe.
because I was so excited, and I just wanted everybody to know because
Yeah.
that is one of those things that you look for and to be able to find a good connect. I
Mhm.
put a link to the Michelle's Facebook group, Black Owned Mexico, resources and info in the chat. And then after this goes up, I'll put that link in the description as well. You mentioned, like there are lots of us, Black people moving to Mexico, and in particular, Black Americans. They released that data from the census, and I was blown away.
Me too.
If people don't know, Mexico, just like many other places in Latin America, has a history of slavery. So there have been Black people in Mexico for almost as long as there have been Europeans in Mexico.
Exactly.
And it wasn't until recently, like the last 5 years or so, that the Afro-Mexican population has been officially recognized by the government.
Yes.
And with the most recent census, this was an opportunity to like actually have better numbers, better data. And when they released the census data, it broke down the entire Afro descendant population country of origin. So Afro Mexicans, people from Cuba, Honduras, you know, wherever else. I was shocked that 27% of the Afro descendant population in Mexico is from the US.
Yeah, it is. And the whole count in general is like 1.2 million?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, they had such a large number from the US. And I learned that from Patricia. I don't know, you
Yes.
see her all the time on my page, right? Patricia.
Yes. No. If you're looking for just about any kind of information, Patricia Talley, she's been in Mexico for more than 20 years.
Yeah.
She has Mexican citizenship. She is a wealth of information.
Yes.
I thought we had another question. But you also mentioned that, you know, your group and the idea behind it is not about, you know, like not helping out locals and that sort of thing. It's more about, you know, connecting different people from the diaspora. And, you know, we've learned that there are African textile artists, there are fashion designers, there are chefs, there are hair salons, you know, all of that.
Exactly. I have several ladies that I found in Mexico City that I didn't know of, and Mexico City is right there. We had a couple months ago 2 ladies from Playa del Carmen. One's married to Mexican, and her story was interesting. She was like, "Yeah, I met him in my country. I think she's from Ghana." And they got married and they moved to Mexico, and she just opened a shop. And the whole point of saying all of it is that we are here, right? And if you're doing the right thing and doing it the right way, let's share. And if there are people locally, and I said this yesterday because I did an interview with Roxana and Rekia, who live in Veracruz, and they're a wealth of information as well. And I said to her, she was telling me about some organic products and things, and I said, please, like, put a label on it. Let's support those people. I mean, like, I don't want to buy all my stuff and bring it from the US. I don't mind buying things here. What's the well, I don't say complication. What's a little bit more difficult with Mexico is that there's so many people who do things in their little towns and they stay in their little towns, right? So
Yeah.
if you can come to Mexico and you can help them make money because you have a business sense, then do it, right? If you can give back in this way, then do it. If you can help someone locally sell their, art or their jewelry or whatever it is, because they're super creative, why not? If you can find a way to distribute things, then do that. Like, I'm going to make quick mention of this. Patricia Ann Talley, she's been involved a lot with a lot of community things through the Martin Luther King organization out of the US. And in June, we're doing a virtual event fundraising for the Costa Chica area, which is heavily populated with Afro Mexicanos. And the intention is to shed a light on the art, music, the culture, and their traditions, and all these other things, and raise funds for this area for supplies and things that they need. So this is kind of, a thing where if you can be involved in something that helps where you are, then do it. I mean, my friend Stephanie that lives here and has been here for over 20 years, her thing is always, what can we come and do and give back? Because a lot of people from Canada and the US, mostly white people, they come and they do a lot of these charity type things, their mindset. So I feel like as we continue growing, let's also do the same where we can. It might not be on the same level or same scale, but there's always something you can do, that you can provide or service or help or whatever it is or volunteer. So be mindful of that.
So if somebody wants more information on that upcoming fundraiser, where would be the best place to be able to catch those updates?
I'm going to start posting the link on my Black-owned Mexico resources and information. And I
Okay.
also have an Afro Expats page as well. And I have a Black SMA if anyone specifically wants to visit. They can do that. So I'm going to have those links, and I'll send it to you, and you can
Okay.
post it in this
Okay.
as well. I'll send you for it.
Because I have the Linktree app for Afro Expats, and we're going to talk about
Okay.
that as well. So if you want more information, definitely join Black-owned Mexico Resources and Information on Facebook. And the Black SMA, is that a Facebook group as well?
Yes, they're mostly Facebook. They're all Facebook. I do have
Okay.
Instagram, but I don't use it. It's too much to
Yeah.
monitor.
I
You know
understand.
how it is.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody asked about YouTube.
Yes, I have a YouTube channel. It's called
Okay.
Michelle for Afro Expats.
And I think that's on the Linktree.
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Yeah. So it's
Okay.
basically it's more about my movements around Mexico and my viewpoints from my perspective. I started interviewing a little bit, but right now it's mostly just, I want people to see like it's a big country and it's not just one small area. I've literally had relatives that would write me, like say today and say, "Hey, I'm going to be in Cancun tomorrow. Do you want to have a drink?" And I'm like, 23 hours away. I don't think I'll make it. So I just want people to understand like it's a big country. So yesterday when I spoke to Rakia and Roxana, it's my idea right now is to just, showcase other parts of Mexico and why they like it there. Not that we all want to be bombarded with, people
Tons of
moving
people.
right off the top and that, yeah, talking and whatever. But my overall idea is just what you're doing, is bringing and shedding light to various parts of Mexico and what's out there and your other options.
Yeah, there are other options. Everybody knows how I feel about Mexico City. San Miguel de Allende is too small for me. It is a
Right.
very nice place, but it is not the right place for me.
Right.
Because I want to talk about what you're doing with Afro Expats, but we had a question about your son's school.
Okay.
What grade does it go up to? Because Rita has an 11-year-old son who's going to be going into 7th grade.
Okay. I believe it goes up to ninth grade. I can say that in this city in particular, the high schools aren't great. But there is one school that I'm aiming to send him to that starts at 5th grade until 12th grade. And it's been run for over 30 years, I believe, by an American woman. So she teaches an American curriculum. And it's called Victoria Robbins School or Robbins. And it starts at 5th grade. So it's also bilingual and private. And most of the people who can, they want to send their child there. So that's my goal, to send Micah there next year. Not this school year, but in 2022 for 5th grade. And it's a very good school because when they graduate, they give you an American degree. So
Okay,
you're
so you get both. So you get
right. Yeah.
the school I worked at in Honduras was like that,
Mhm.
where the kids got both diplomas.
Exactly. So that's a great option, and it's also again around the same cost.
Okay.
Mhm.
So let's talk about Afro expats.
Okay. So it kind of happened last year when I was traveling around, and I was just like, I really wanted people to just see it from our eyes, our viewpoint. It's not just about jumping into moving, right? It's involved. There's a lot to know and to do. And there are those of us like yourself and many others that have been pioneers, and we've all been through all the steps and all the processes. We kind of know a little bit more, and trying to find everything on Facebook can be daunting, especially what I realize is everyone's journey is very different. So everyone's move is different. If you're moving by yourself or as a couple or with children, or, you don't have a job yet, or, it just all depends. So I noticed that there were a lot of pages kind of popping up a year to a year and a half ago that were focused either on people who are still in the US who want to move, but I didn't find a lot, and now there are some more, I should say, but from the perspective of people who are already doing it and or living. So that was my intention, was okay, here's where I am in central Mexico, and I want to share my experiences. So it started with that, and it's turned into consulting and mentorship, because I realized that although I had been here and maybe had a little bit more in terms of what to expect, there are a lot of folks who don't have that viewpoint. And so I offer basically consulting services for anyone who's interested in moving to Mexico. And that entails more of like a discovery call where we just talk for 90 minutes. I upped it. It was 60 minutes, but I upped it to 90 because every time it would just go over. It's like 2 hours. And, and I don't mind. Everyone has a different thing. And all of my clients, some of them are already in the process of moving, and some want to move, or some are interested in San Miguel in particular. So it's to sit down and talk about, the reality of moving, what it entails, what is it that you're looking for, what stage you're at, and what do you need help with, and how do you, make it happen for you. And also encouraging people, because I spoke to a lady last week, Sunday. She was so beautiful, and she was telling me her life story about her son and et cetera, et cetera. And she just really, I guess, related to some of the things that she saw in some of my videos. And she's like, I live in Florida, and I connected with this and that, and I loved that your mom was there, because she's in her 60s. She looked fabulous. I was like, I cannot believe you're at that age. And anyway, she just really was interested in hair. And I think she was just trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel, And I think that when you think about moving, it can be daunting, especially if you're just like afraid. People are afraid. And I'm like, don't be afraid. You can do it. You got to make a plan. So that's really the service that I offer. And honestly, although it's a service, I really enjoy it. I don't mind talking extra, and then at the end, I do a whole recap with resources that are specific to your journey. Yeah. So, and I have some people that are here now that came here this week, so I'm excited. They're looking
Awesome.
for housing and realtors and whatever.
I
Yeah.
think what is so nice about what it is now is that there are more of us doing this work, and you can find the person who, they have the right vibes, they fit, their experiences maybe more closely fit with yours, or what have you. Or like, if you, like, I would not be the person to talk to if somebody wanted to move to San Miguel. Like,
Right. Exactly.
I really wouldn't. So I think that's great. Do y'all have any other questions for Michelle? I am curious, what is the biggest drawback, or what's the downside of life for y'all in San Miguel?
I would say probably I'll answer maybe for my husband, even though he's not in the conversation. But I think for him, because his family is larger, and he's moved from Connecticut, not getting to see them as often, just you know how it is. If you live in the same place, you get to go and have a Sunday dinner, impromptu, get together, or you just get to do more together. For myself, I can't say there's a whole lot because I lived away from home for so long, that for me, it's sort of just, I don't have that same feeling. Downsize wise, I would say, sometimes it seems a little bit complicated, especially now during COVID, to get out and around Mexico, even Mexico, because the airport that was close to us, or the two airports that are close to where we are, the flights are less and things like that. So it can be a whole day just to get to Florida. It feels that way, because you're making either the drive or a flight from here to Mexico City.
City.
Right. And then you're waiting in Mexico City to get to some other connection in the US and then maybe finally your destination. And it's not that far. I mean, if you could just go straight, it'd probably take 3 hours.
Yeah.
So those are like the little things. Overall, though, I feel that, there's a lot of quality of life here. And I just can't complain. I mean, there's a lot of service, there are a lot of services, people that are friendly. I can get the things I need. If I need items that I'm familiar with, I drive to Querétaro, which is only 45 minutes away. I go to HEB, I go to Costco's, I go to the mall. If I need, like a few weeks ago, I needed sneakers. There's a gym, I work out up the street where I live. It's comfortable. I have amenities, pools, gyms, saunas. So I feel like I have way more, and the things that maybe I'm missing when I can think of them, it's so small that I really can't complain. So I don't, because I don't want to, I just universally, I don't want to be ungrateful.
Well, somebody had just asked about how had the quality of your life changed. And, like that is one thing I'm jealous about, that in that part of Mexico, y'all have HEBs, because I'm from
Oh, yeah.
Texas, and
Mhm.
HEB is the grocery store.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm quite jealous of that. But how do you feel like your quality of life is different
Oh
from
my
what it
God,
was?
it's so much better that I don't even want to share because I don't want your audience to get mad. No, it's definitely better. I mean, we enjoy the benefits of the things that you can afford here. Getting a housekeeper, just yeah, stuff. Services. I mean, when COVID hit, my mom and I we were trying to be nail techs, and I was like, this isn't working. Gotta be someone that will come to my house and do this. And yeah, there was, especially here, I think because it's such a high, there's such a high population of foreigners, people actually earn and survive because they can give you services. So between that and just, like I said, for example, the things that I learned along the way, that there's not a lot of red tape here in Mexico in general, meaning I don't have to call the 800 number to get whatever. I can just call the direct person who will show up in your house in probably an hour and you
That's very true.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I didn't have this in Florida or anywhere ever. So for me, it's, I can call the butcher in town and say, I need 2 whole chickens, and they'll be here in an hour with the 2 whole chickens. It sounds a little crazy, but it does actually work this way. I remember during COVID, like I said, nail person, I ran out of incense sticks. And I was like, does anyone know the name of the lady and the number of the lady that's in Mercado Sano selling the incense? They're like, yes, Irene, and here's her number. And I wrote her, and she was just like, yeah, I can deliver those this afternoon. What scents do you want? So it's one of those things where we're just over with services and people will come to your house. I mean, there's a guy who cleans whenever you want, and you don't have to go, I don't have to go anywhere. I just unlock the door. I mean, a part of that is because of where I live, but in general, that's the way it works. And on the weekends, I don't know if this happened in Mexico City, where the liquor stores were shut down on the weekends. Ours were shut down too, but give them a call, they'll bring it to your house. And that's what I did. So, I did not have access to this and or in the US, and even if it existed, I probably couldn't afford it. So,
Yeah,
yes, quality of life is definitely higher in so many ways. I mean, you may not have everything you're used to, but I think for the exchange, you get a lot more, you know.
that's well said. Well said.
Mm,
We had a couple questions about Spanish.
yes.
Um, Now, did you speak Spanish before moving?
Yes, I
Oh,
actually learned Spanish in various places. I wasn't great. I mean, it just, they say you use it or you lose it. I traveled in South America for 3 months years ago, and I had a teacher, and I was fully immersed because no one really spoke English. So I had to speak Spanish, and I moved around a little bit. And then when I went back to Miami, everyone speaks Spanish. And I worked at an establishment where it was just Cuban. Really, I was the one that was the foreigner, and everyone spoke Spanish, but it was like very specific. I was only speaking certain things, like it was, just whatever it was that they needed in this particular place. And that was it. And then I moved to West Palm Beach after I had my son, and I just didn't really use it. I didn't have a need to. I had a neighbor who was from the Dominican, and she and I would speak our
mhm.
Spanglish, I called it, because it was very broken. But I understand a lot. And then when I moved here, I thought I knew something. Like I really was like, oh, I got this. No, I didn't have it at all. Not until, and I didn't realize I didn't have it until I had to get on the phone. So that's really complicated.
Yeah,
Right?
I will walk to an establishment to make a reservation or do whatever versus trying to do Spanish over the phone. It's too high stakes for me. Um,
I have gotten hung up on so many times. They will hang up the phone on you. I'm like,
while you're
trying to
trying to get it out.
order food or make an appointment or whatever. But, and I was doing the same thing. When I moved here, we had to tell security if someone was showing up to deliver anything. I would walk down to the security just to tell them or show them my phone because I thought I really understood. And then, it's like you understand that you get stuck halfway through the sentence because it's like, oh my God, what's that one really important word, right? And then I realized I have to study. I got to get on my A game, and I just have to try, and I have to speak to the locals and the people in the market. And so what I realized is you really just need basic everyday day-to-day phrases, like do you have, or I want, or where is, and then you figure out what the vocabulary is. So since I got here and I thought I knew something to now I've gotten much better, and I'm taking classes just to bring it back.
Do you think that somebody has to speak Spanish to move to San Miguel de Allende?
Here, no, but I encourage it. I really believe that no matter where you end up in the world, you really should try to learn the language as much as you can if you plan on living there. I think it's only the right thing to do, because that's our attitude, right? When
Hmm.
someone comes from wherever to the US, we get mad when they can't speak our language, and we're, getting all a little huffy about it. And I say it more so because I think it's important to know the people that are around you better. Like I don't want to just have my housekeeper come and, I can't, I'm
You
like,
can't.
how are your kids? And not that I'm trying to be your best friend, but you know what I'm saying? It's a respect thing. And, I always like, ask her, like, how are your children, or how are you doing? If I go away and I come back, like, was everything okay? She has my number. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, I feel like it's my responsibility to try harder. Even if I'm never fluent and perfect, just being able to communicate, that is the barrier. It's not skin color. That is,
Yeah.
language is the barrier around the world. That's a fact. you know.
Now, somebody asked about dialect. I don't know. I mean, like there's Mexican Spanish because my teacher is Honduran, and we often have conversations about, well, in Mexico, this is the word they use. But I don't know if, I mean, I know in the city, there are probably words that they use that they don't use there.
Right. What I've experienced in moving around is, for example, when I really learned Spanish, not in college, because it was just to get a grade and then I forgot everything. When I went to Ecuador, and I think Mexico, maybe another country, they kind of have the more pure Spanish or the purest Spanish, where there's not a whole lot of, you know, extra dialect or slangs and things like that, where you really, it's easier to understand them. I should probably say it that way. So when I was in Ecuador and I was learning it, I was like, okay, this makes sense. Okay, I got it. I got it. And I did that for 5 weeks, 20 hours a week. And I was like, I got this. And then I went to Chile. Forget it. It was all out the window. I didn't understand anything, like nothing, anytime someone started, because the dialect was so different. Same when I went over to Buenos Aires, same thing. I couldn't understand. I could read it, but I could not understand them, and they did not understand me. And I was just like, ugh. I would just point to stuff like, this is what I want, and forget about it. So it was frustrating. But here, I think it's definitely less like slang, and even in Florida, like the Cubans sound like the Puerto Ricans. There's like rah, rah, rah. And I mean, I kind of got used to it because I lived there, but it's very gargled. And here, I feel that it's a little bit more pure. If they're not, there's some people who just speak fast, and you have to tell them, like not so fast, slow down. But I definitely understand um, more. It seems to me to be a little clearer dialect wise. I'm sure people experience that. For example, people will say to me, I understand your English, it's clear, whatever, but I don't understand so and so. And I'm like, yeah, because, she's from the South and the dialect is different. And, they're like, I just don't understand what she's saying. I'm like, yeah, they speak a little faster. There's a slang. Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
definitely the same things.
And speaking of Florida,
Mhm.
we had a question about what the weather is like there in San Miguel.
Oh, the weather here is amazing. It's not summer like Florida. We don't get that crazy 24/7 round the, year round heat and humidity. We're in the mountains. We are 6,300 feet above sea level, and we're kind of in like a valley setting. So,
So sort of
we,
like here in Mexico City.
yes. So the temperature, and I know Mexico City is even higher,
Yeah.
right? The elevation. I thought so. I think I saw that a few weeks ago. I don't remember where, but
Yeah, it's like
anyway,
7,300, 7,400 feet, something like that.
yes. But overall, the weather is really nice here. I would say the average temps year round, midday, is usually 70 to 80 degrees. At nights, depending on the time of year, like for example, in December and January, it can get cold. I mean, I'm sure in Mexico City it's the same. It can go down to like, I think I've experienced 35. But then the next morning you get up and it's like right back up to 70 or
Yeah.
75. So it's like really drastic in some ways because I'm used to Florida where I'm like, okay, tank top, flip flops, and you can't do that here. But then suddenly you feel like you're in Florida and then you're freezing, and then you're hot. So everyone always says, wear layers. And I'm like, I don't know. It's hard for me to go out here in the night because if we leave at say 4 or 5, it's nice. And then
But
suddenly
you need
at
a
lunchtime,
jacket.
yeah, you bring
You
a
need a
jacket,
jacket.
and then suddenly it's like, you're on a rooftop because there's so many rooftop restaurants here. And then it's like freezing, and they always bring you like a little blanket or something. So it just changes, but our summer is right now. April and May, I think, is the warmest time of the year. And then June, July, August, September, it's really beautiful, but it rains mostly at night, maybe in the
Yep.
morning, afternoon. Yeah, and it cools down. So overall, the weather is really comfortable. I've gotten used to the non-humidity because I kind of was missing that a little. My skin misses it. Ugh, so dry up here.
That is the one drawback, is that it is much drier. But
Yeah.
I was in Houston last month, and the weather changed every day. And I have gotten out of the habit of checking the weather because there really isn't a need, because
Right.
it'll be, if you're going out at night, take a jacket. In the
Right.
day, it'll be, comfortable. And I was like, every day, this day it rained, this day, I was like, I didn't realize how like I disregard even checking the weather now,
Yeah,
after
definitely.
being here. Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for
Thank you.
taking a little bit of time out of your Mother's Day, although
Thank
you get
you.
2 days, because
I know.
tomorrow is Mexican Mother's
I
Day.
know. I know. That's exciting. We deserve
Uh,
it.
to share with us y'all's experience in San Miguel de Allende. I will, like I said, come back in the description and add links to the Black Owned Mexico Resources and Information Facebook group, as well as links for the San Miguel de Allende Facebook group and
Mm.
Michelle's Afro Expat information.
Okay.
Um, Thank
Thank
you to
you.
everybody who's been in the chat and came to watch this live. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you too. Y'all enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thank you so much.